C racing, world endurance racing. This car screams out Le Mans. Victories at Le Mans. It's high speed. The rules were quite relatively simple. Group C said 800 kilos minimum weight, 100 liters of fuel. That should keep all the manufacturers at bay, and everyone took part. Lancia was taking part, Porsche was taking part, Sauber, Mercedes, Nissan, everyone, all the big manufacturers joined in on the Group C era, and they were extremely fast. I can only imagine at Le Mans driving a car like this. And to continue on our car stories theme, we said we're going to invite restorers, we're going to invite designers, we're going to invite drivers to give us a flavor of what it's like to be in one of these cars, to drive one of these cars. So with this Group C car, we have asked 14-time Le Mans entrant, and he came third overall one year. Formula One Grand Prix driver, TV presenter, what do we say? Top gear, fifth gear, extra gear, all the gears. I think he's done it all. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so pleased to tell you that Tiff Needell is here to come and join me on stage. The good news is, nobody else has had an applause coming up here. You're the only one, so it's a good start. They must like you.
I'm honoured. Thank you very much. Welcome to this wonderful classic car show. This beautiful building. It's so lovely to be here this year. Gorgeous. And to stand behind an iconic car like this.
Well, exactly. So go on, tell us. Go on. Because I feel like you forget. So, third overall Le Mans.
Yeah, 1990 was my best result in a Porsche. In fact, it was the last podium for Porsches, yeah. Sadly, I got
good
into
thing you were
Porsches.
around to get them on the podium.
Well, no, that was the last podium for Porsche. I actually got into Porsches when they were beginning to fade, when the mighty Mercedes had come in and they were being dominant in the championship, and we had Nissan factory and Toyota factory. So by the end of the 80s, I mean, Group C was the most magnificent sports car racing formula ever. And it was created in 1982, and Porsche were really the first ones to come out of the blocks. Lancia were racing as well, the Martini lines, but not many manufacturers came out. The great thing about Porsche, they made them customer cars.
Yeah.
So it's probably the last time in motorsport you could buy a race-winning car and compete against the manufacturers head-to-head. Porsche gave you exactly the same equipment, or almost exactly the same.
I was going to say, let's not go overboard.
So the first part of the 80s, you know, these cars just dominated before the Mercedes and Nissan.
You drove the 90, like you actually, like the 962 is a car that you drove at Le Mans.
Yeah, on about 5 different occasions. Not
Five
the
times?
early 80s. Yeah, the early 80s I was driving things like Aston Martin, Nimrods and M Aston Martins. But I remember 1983 I qualified 13th at Le Mans, and there were 10 Porsches ahead of me and 2 Lancias. So they dominated the formula in the early years.
These Porsches are a bit like 911s on the road. I feel like you go out in central London, you always see about 10 911s parked up and only about 2 Ferraris.
But actually, the lovely thing about them, they were literally a turnkey. The Americans always talk about turnkey racing cars. And these Porsches actually had a key that you turn to put the ignition on, which no other racing car, of course, has all switches and clicks and blobs. So, synchronous gearbox, quite a heavy, slow, ponderous change.
Is synchronous gearbox a good thing or a bad thing in a race car?
Well, it's a bad thing for quick shifts, so you know, you lose a little bit of time. But the whole thing about Porsche, they just built these so strong that they could, in customers' hands, finish these 1,000 kilometres, 6-hour races, 24-hour races. They were just the old proverbial.
Well, hang on a second.
And by the way, Max, they're Porsches.
I'm sorry, Porsches.
I mean, really, Max. You've got to remember, if you're a Porsche driver, they are Porsches.
I knew this was
Porsches, not Porsches.
I knew this was going to be a tough car talk. So you say they always finish the races. I think someone told me, probably you, that you lost a wheel once.
Yes, that was.
So they don't actually always finish races. As a matter of fact, hang on a second. 2 minutes ago, you were complaining to me that you know they didn't know how to put the wheels on, they didn't give us the right information, and now you're telling everyone they're super reliable. Was it really easy?
Well, yes,
Get your story straight.
The early days, I first raced in 1983 at Monza in Italy in the Richard Lloyd car. when Jonathan Palmer couldn't do a race, I was actually brought in to drive a one-off. And they were 956s then. I think it was the first 2 years they were 956s.
So the car preceding this one was the 956.
Because the regulations changed that you couldn't have your feet in front of the centre line of the wheels. In the old 956s, your little tinky toes were out here somewhere. So they made them have a slightly longer wheelbase than the 962 that put your little twinky toes
there we
behind
go.
the centre.
And unfortunately, there was a bad accident with the 956. These were supposed to be safer.
They killed several drivers.
Yeah, well, they were supposed. That's why I said they were supposed to be safer.
The trouble is they're aluminium monocoques, which is why people like Richard Lloyd, some people made their own chassis. This is a Richard Lloyd chassis. So some people made stronger monocoques because the factory aluminium ones were a bit weak and they used to just fold in the middle when you hit anything hard.
The point is not to hit anything. But go on, tell us
the
about
wheels.
the wheels. Tell us the wheels.
So they had this problem that they just started shedding front wheels. And in fact, my first ever race at Monza, and I was going to go in second in the car, and I forget who was in that, was Jan Lammers did the first hour. So I got into this, my first race in a Porsche 95662, I'm in the pits all nervous, and in they come. We didn't change the wheels. The wheels were the same wheels that had done an hour.
Right.
I went out onto Monza, started going through that Curva Grande, and all of a sudden there's a clunk. And I see this wheel shooting off that way.
And you both thought,
I thought, that's my wheel! So, they're quite a stiff car, and you've got a big nose with a lot of skinny underplates. So it was quite easy then to just drive them slowly back, have another wheel put on.
And off you went again.
And lots of teams, almost every of the privateer teams had this happen once or more, but it never happened to the factory cars.
Funny that, isn't it?
I know.
But you also just said that the factory cars had all the same information as the privateers. This is not adding up.
Something must have been a bit different with the factory cars because they never lost their front wheels.
Okay, so that's your first sort of non-finished story. And now tell us, how about on these very reliable cars, didn't one sort of catch on fire on you?
Oh, yeah, but that was 1989, so it was
1989, doesn't count.
That was my first full season in Porsches. I mean, I did a factory Toyota driver in 86 and 87, and then I got the gig to do Porsche Cars Great Britain actually sponsored us that year, so it was a Porsche. I drove with Derek Bell, a five-time Le Mans winner, and World, he was the co-driver. Well, actually, for that Le Mans, he'd gone back to the factory team.
So he abandoned you?
No, he wasn't. That was a year later when I beat him. That was another story. So Derek Bell was with us. And it was a year when we qualified quite badly. The car wasn't that quick, about 24th, and we dragged the car up to about 5th place. Me and James Weaver, another young British driver with the team. And Derek, by that time, had gone to lunch at the local restaurant where he stays at about midday on Sunday because he was a bit bored with only finishing 5th, which really won so many. So he was off having lunch. And me and James were left to finish the race. But during that 24 hours, there have been several Porsche 962s bursting into flames. What they found out afterwards, that there's a whole new load of fuel inlet castings that all the teams have been given to go to Le Mans that year. And these castings all had a fault in them.
Whoops.
And it was just luck whether yours cracked or not. And it was actually quite a long story, but I'll tell it because it's quite interesting. Because the thing about Group C was it was a fuel consumption race. You only had 100-litre tanks. You only had so much fuel for each event. So you actually had 2 meters, you had your fuel tank level, but you also, when you got into the car, you reset it. So you could see how much of the fuel you'd use as you were coming around for a pit stop. Right. And there was a sort of warning light when you only had 20 litres left to tell you what was going anyway. So I jumped into the car to go out and do the last stint, pressed the reset button to 0, the tank was full, so off I go, no problems. And all of a sudden, I'd only done about 10 laps, so they should do 13 laps. So I was looking at the fuel readout, and it only used 70 litres, the engine only used 70 litres. And all of a sudden the warning light came on to say I've only got 5 litres left in the tank. So I'm just going down the old Mulsanne Street. I said, hold on a minute, the engine's only used 70 litres.
Hang on a second, Going down the Mulsanne Street, sort of at,
200 miles an hour.
At 200 miles an hour, and he's thinking, hang on a second, right, let me think about this. At 200 miles an hour, go on.
And I started working out, well, hold on a minute, if the tank's lost 95 litres, but my engine's only had 72 litres, where's the... About the same time, I looked at a little rear view mirror, and I noticed this big red ball behind me. And when I looked again, I realised the big red ball was going at the same speed as I was. So I suddenly realised I would now join the flambeing Porsche club. So the amazing thing is, as a racing driver, you don't understand crashes, you see us jumping out and getting in another car. And it's the same with when problems happen. We don't get shocked. Because we're full of adrenaline and we're concentrating 100% on what we're supposed to be doing driving the car, you don't actually get shocked. Because you'd think now, hit the brakes, jump out the bloody thing, but no.
No,
bad idea.
put your foot down and get back to the pits as quick as you can.
No, not that either, mate.
Oh no?
Because there's lots of people in the pits, aren't there?
Oh.
Because you know that if you then hit the brakes, the big red ball catches up with you very, very quickly.
Yes.
And everything gets very hot. So then you start thinking, right, where in the last 23 hours have I seen the biggest fire engine on the track? So now you're driving those great red flame lines. I remember there was a big fire engine at the end of the start-finish straight at Le Mans. So you then undo your seat belts. Do you remember where the fire extinguisher button was? But you don't want to pull the fire extinguisher now. In panics, it might not work. You want to keep that. So anyway, I went all the way around and got down to the pits. So you don't go to the pits because you know there's lots of fuel in the pits. So at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon at Le Mans, I gracefully flambéed my way past the grandstands, entertaining the crowds after their lunch, stopped the big red fire engine at the end of the straight, hit the fire extinguisher button, all the flames going forward, leapt out the door, walked back to the pits. So yeah.
And the car was barbecue?
The car wasn't good. In fact, until Richard Lloyd, a week later, gave me a bollocking for not shutting the door when I got out, because all the flames went in. Burnt his seat, so he got upset. So it wasn't always fully reliable, the Porsches, but that was a year when there were a few fires. And
but on a serious note, the driving these cars at Le Mans, it must have been. You know, I was asking you. You said that driving a Grand Prix car was really the highlight. But
yeah.
Doing races at Le Mans, I know you did so many of them through the night, Mulsanne straight, lights on. You probably can't see much. It must be like and then. You're tired, it's a team effort, it's an amazing experience, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, it was a complete buzz. I mean, when you go from single seater to something like this, it does feel a bit like a truck at first. So Grand Prix cars, Formula 2 cars, you know, single seater is designed to just be perfect to drive. So of course you've got limited visibility in a Group C car from the A pillars. It's a different thing. Cars are heavier, a lot of ground effect. These cars are famous for good ground effect for the air of the car. But the steering was very heavy, would load up.
Gearbox wasn't as good.
Gearbox is synchromesh, as I said earlier, so it's quite a ponderous change, so you couldn't rush the gearbox. One of the worst things, again, about the customers, the brakes weren't always that good. In the early days of long-distance brakes, teams were trying to get bigger and bigger pads in, so you wouldn't have to change them so often. Nowadays, they go 24 hours without changing pads. But a lot of time, you'd have to be going down the street, pumping up the pedal, you know, always a little tap with the left foot.
Is it still there?
So you had to be thinking, but it was such a brutal speed that was going on, the cornering and the racing, it was just magnificent.
You must have been so tired by the end, the whole team, the 24 hours up, even just physically, just hours.
It's actually funny, when 1985, I raced for Kramer, a German team. And I've been racing a good German team, except that broke and nearly killed me.
Maybe it's not the car, maybe it's the driver. Do you think it could be the operator?
But 1985, I'd been racing in Japan where it was very hot, and it was really hot, humid, and so we started using water bottles, which was new to me in Europe, but I thought it was quite a good idea. I could have a drink, she was knackered. And I remember 1985, we came to Le Mans to drive for Kramer, so I said to them, you know, do you think we could put up a water bottle? Tiff, you're a professional driver, you'll drive, not drink. So you see the fitness levels now, you know, when they're so trained up, these athletes in Formula 1, they, you know, got proteins and drinks bottles and everything. So, you know, 85, only what, 30 years ago, we didn't even have drinks in the car. In fact, there's a wonderful picture of someone, I don't know who it was, the Argentinian Grand Prix of about 1958, where someone had a bucket, there was a corner, the first corner, they'd planned this before, and literally, about 50, I don't know who it was a privateer and a Cooper, slowed down and a mate just threw a bucket of cold water. We did get incredible. I mean, we're talking about the cockpit temperatures being about 60, 70 degrees centigrade in these things. I mean, we were seriously overheating.
And I think people sort of don't appreciate how hard it is when you're. So what are the stints? 1 hour, 2 hour stints?
Yeah, 1 hour. You go double stint, 2 hours.
So imagine if you do a double stint. And I think what we don't appreciate is the speed that you were doing in these cars. And every lap you have to be. It's not that you can think, oh, this lap I'm gonna take my foot off of it and take a breather. You've got to be on it all the time. And the concentration that you have, I really do admire it. And at night as well. I would do it.
The night times are the best, the speed and everything. Your senses, when you used to get about 5 o'clock in the morning, because your senses, I talked about your reactions to doing things. You'd smell the first bacon sandwich that hits a barbecue at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning.
Down the Mulsanne straight to see what your miles an hour.
They don't count there, but yeah, come on, you would literally, you just senses are so heightened. Being a racing driver is a wonderfully honoured and lucky thing I've been to do, and to sit there for 1 hour, 2 hours at a time, and just so much going on in your brain and your body. it's just something you can't ever not forget. You're so lucky to have done, really.
And to have, it obviously must have been quite good, because you went back 14 times, you've lost wheels, the car's trying to catch on fire, they tried to barbecue you, but you still always kept on going back. I guess you forget, you think, oh yeah, it was fine. It's just part of the job. You were there to get a result and go in for the win. So would you say that driving a car like this, you know, you said it's sort of coming from single seaters, coming from Formula One, it's a bit sort of heavy and it's not as nimble and as light, but it's still one of the, let's say, best experiences, or you know, one of the most finely tuned cars that you've had the pleasure of driving?
Yeah, they really were. Of course, there was so many doing it. You know, I mean, as I said, we had the last round in 1989 at Brands Hatch, the Grand Prix circuit. I've seen the photos now. There was about 26 C1 cars, and there was a junior class, slightly smaller C2s, we had about 12 cars. So we had 26. There's factory Porsches, Mercedes, Toyotas, Nissans, and a few other I can't come off the top of my head. The crowd was immense in those photos. It was absolutely a brutal day out on Brands Grand Prix circuit, one of the finest drivers circuits around. And sadly, this was something that man called Bernie Eccleston ruined. Because Bernie, bless him, saw the success of Group C, hated the fact that it was so successful, so many manufacturers were doing it. So he was trying to get more manufacturers to make Formula One engines, and he just moved into that 3.5 litre normally aspirated era. So he said, right, you must change that Group C to 3.5 litre normally aspirated engines, which 6 of the manufacturers said on this. And so, you know, it went down. They did create that wonderful Ross Brawn Jaguar, which was just like a roller skate with grip, you know, and it just blew everybody else off. And so Group C died, you know, simply because they tried to change the rules for something better and it wasn't. But
it's interesting that you know, Group C was such an iconic time, and you lived it, you were racing in it, and you have such good memories. And I think it's reflected now as well, because these cars today are extremely collectible, and there's a lot of people that have those great memories. Not many people that are as lucky as you that drove them, but so many people that remember seeing all the cars at Brands Hatch. And now collectors really value cars like this.
Is this one for sale? Are we selling this one?
I'm not selling it, probably somebody is.
This is quite an unusual car. The one we got here is quite unusual because it's not a factory Rothmans car. So they're very famous, the Rothmans cars in the first part of the 80s. The factory cars didn't have a customer chassis number. So they're a different league of car, and they were one thing. But this is the only car to ever wear the Rothmans colours that wasn't a factory Rothmans car. It's actually a Richard Lloyd chassis from 1987. But they wanted Rothmans. There was a one-off race in South Africa, not a championship round, at the end of '87. So they wanted a Rothmans car out there. They got Jochen Mass to drive. It was only a single driver event. So this is actually a Richard Lloyd customer car, honoured with the Rothmans colours. And it won the race. It won the last race, really, that the Rothmans colours did.
Because that's another thing that was great about Group C. Maybe not so much for you because you were sitting in the car, but for us watching, to all the different liveries, and they're such iconic. Like this Rothmans livery, Rothmans Porsche, has become so iconic, and even like the Yokohama liveries, and there was just a very colourful.
And the Alpha, don't forget the Alpha that finished third at Le Mans in 1990, the Alpha livery was plain.
Of course,
it was plain black. There's the car at Kyalami there, yeah. It was black, the Alpha car, but it looked great to me.
But they do that. I think that's sort of a sign of the times of Group C when the liveries were all going all over the place. It was a great time. Well,
actually, the great thing about the Alpha, I came third. Derek Bell, that was actually co-sharing with me in the Japanese team. It was a Japanese team I drove for a privateer. That was the year he dropped out of my car to drive for the factory. We finished third, and the factory car was fourth. I should have said fourth. So we actually, in fact, I was very proud because the car I came third in, I was racing the Japanese championship, and the Japanese private owner said, "Well, I'd like you to take the car to Le Mans," so we tied it to Japanese.
So you said, "Oh, all right, I'll drive at Le Mans for you. I'll go on then."
But then it was one of the most competitive Le Mans. Mercedes pulled out because their tyres kept blowing off. So there wasn't around the World Championship. Mercedes were the only team that didn't go. But the two silk-cut Jaguars were first and second, we were third, then it was the factory Porsche fourth, the factory Toyota fifth, and the factory Nissan sixth. So we're the only privateer team in the top six.
So in summary, Tim is saying that he drove really well, and it was all thanks to his good looks and very good driving that he came third and he beat all the works teams. Well done. That was a good result at Le Mans. Well done. And I said to her, I said, never tell anyone that you came third at Le Mans. But today, you have made up for any lost time. And you did it in style. Thank you so much for telling us about Group C, about Le Mans. It's been fun. I hope it's given you an idea of what it's like. And thank you for listening to us. Thanks, Tim.
My pleasure. If you want a photo of me on the car, I'll stay around, take some photos. Thank you very much indeed.
Come on.